The orchard was like a scar on the land, a haunting stretch of crooked trees whose roots seemed to claw upward, almost as if trying to escape the darkness below. The bark split in gnarled ridges, almost like scar tissue, while the branches twisted into these really unnatural angles, creating a seriously eerie silhouette against the sky. It used to be such a vibrant place, bursting with laughter and life, you know? But now it feels like it's rotted into something truly unsettling. The fruit that dares to grow is pale and sour, a far cry from the juicy delights it once bore, making you really wonder what went wrong here. Every villager gives it a wide berth after dusk, sharing spine-chilling stories about how the soil seems to drink blood, almost like it craves something dark and sinister. They'd whisper that the ground lets out ghostly sighs at night, sending chills down your spine and leaving you with a sense of dread. Sending shivers down your spine, and the trees whispered secrets, almost like they were channeling the voices of the dead. Can you imagine that? It's like the orchard is a treasure chest of eerie secrets that no one dares to uncover, right? This all traced back to the chilling killings of the 1980s, when a faceless man never caught or even identified turned the orchard into his hunting ground. Under the cover of night, he brought in bodies, slitting throats with a precision that felt almost surgical. He carved grotesque spirals and circles into their flesh before burying them shallowly, as if mocking the very ground that would soon betray him. Decades later, storms and floods forced bones up through the surface, revealing the orchard's dark secrets, as if the earth itself was tired of holding onto the horrors buried beneath. It was a place steeped in fear, a haunting reminder of the past that refused to fade away, until skulls rolled between rows of trees and ribs jutted from the soil like broken fence posts, and still, after all the digging, after all the headlines, after all the official photographs of blackened corpses lined up in morgue halls, no one knew who he was or why he did it, and the case slid into folklore as the Orchard murders, a wound left open, a myth stamped with crime scene tape. Inspector Chuka entered that wound not to solve the old horrors, but to investigate new ones, because now the Orchard was not coughing up skeletons, but birthing fresh corpses. People missing for days found propped against the trees with their throats opened wide and their torsos carved with those same strange spirals, the same precision, the same cruelty, and though he told himself it was a copycat, the details made him doubt. Because the bodies bled not blood, but a thick resinous sap, amber and sticky, clinging to his gloves and staining his coat, and their skin sloughed too easily, half-decayed though they had only been gone hours, as though the orchard itself had quickened their rot. Villagers whispered of faces in the branches, pale ovals blooming like fruit at night, swollen cheeks, and sealed eyes dangling heavy among the leaves, and of moans that drifted with the wind, low and guttural like grieving throats. One farmer swore he had bitten into an apple from the orchard once and found pulp the texture of liver, seeds shaped like human teeth, and the juice coppery like blood, and he spat it out, but for weeks after claimed he heard whispers every time he closed his eyes. Chuka dismissed it all until dusk forced him inside the rows, flashlight cutting swaths of light through the crooked trees, and there he saw sap bleeding from trunks in thick lines, dripping like opened veins, pooling in grooves that looked less like bark and more like scars. Deeper still, he found a corpse sitting upright, mouth stuffed with branches, until teeth snapped under the pressure chest cavity torn open not with steel but with roots that speared outward, slick with marrow, and he realized the spiral carved into its flesh was not carved at all, but had grown the same spiral, repeating itself in the rings of the tree it leaned against, as though the tree and corpse were merging into one grotesque continuity. The deeper they dug, the worse it became, because shovels hit not soil, but layers of soft flesh. Unrotted corpses buried like offerings, some twitching, though lifeless, others gasping shallow breaths, as though the orchard allowed them to linger half alive, and when the ground gave way, it revealed an underbelly not of earth, but of thick living root, pulsing like intestines, veined with glowing sap, knotted into shapes resembling skulls, and dripping fluids that reeked of both soil and blood. One officer swore he heard voices from inside the roots, names being whispered, dates being marked, and when he pressed his ear to the trunk, he screamed and clawed it raw because he said he had heard his own voice echoing back, begging to be let out. Chuka tried to bar the orchard padlock it. The inspector tried to secure the orchard with string tape. But come morning, the locks had snapped and new bodies emerged. Villagers who had gone to bed alive only to be discovered in the rows with wood sprouting from their throats and bark creeping over their faces. That night, as he peered out from his window, it felt like he had slipped into a surreal dream. The orchard swayed gently, even though not a single breeze stirred the air. Each crooked tree leaned slightly toward the village, almost as if they were reaching out, beckoning for something or someone to come closer. It was unsettling, you know? In the dim reflection on the glass, he saw himself twist and morph, his features blending into the rough bark of those trees, grain lines spreading across his skin, and his eyes sinking deep into knot holes. It was both eerie and fascinating, right? Like the trees were alive, sharing secrets of the past, and he couldn't help but feel drawn to their dark allure, wondering what mysteries lay hidden within their twisted branches. That night, as he gazed out from his window, the sight felt like something straight out of a dream. The orchard swayed gently, even though there wasn't a whisper of wind. Each crooked tree leaned ever so slightly toward the village, almost as if they were reaching out, waiting for something or someone to come closer. In the darkness of the glass, his reflection twisted and morphed, no longer looking like himself, but more like the bark of those trees, with grain lines spreading across his skin and his eyes sinking deep into knot holes. It was both eerie and fascinating, right? And then, from somewhere outside, he heard a faint, low sound of branches snapping in rhythm, like a heartbeat, something alive and hungry, calling him by name. It sent chills racing down his spine, and he couldn't shake the feeling that the orchard was somehow alive, whispering secrets only he could hear. Was it just his imagination playing tricks? Or was there really something out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for him to uncover its mystery?